Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
A local woman said she was robbed outside this gas station at gunpoint.
I didn't want him to kill me. So my kids was here sleeping.
I'm Larry Sproul, and I'll tell you what she says the suspect stole from her.
We got the rain out of here pretty early today. It will be back before the end of the weekend. Find out if that's going to make our flooding situation any worse.
All right, Ben, we're going to begin, though, with breaking news here at 5. Ron Ilitch, the son of Mike and Marion Ilitch, has been found dead in a Troy hotel.
Let's get to Mara McDonald. She's live at the Marriott on Big Beaver. Mara, what do you know?
Kimberly, let me tell you what we're getting from sources at this juncture. First of all, take a look behind me. We've got Troy police squad cars in front of the Troy Marriott Hotel. According to the Troy PD, they will only say that they've got an investigation underway at this hotel. However, according to sources, we have been told that Ron Ilitch, son of Mike and Marion Ilitch, has been found dead of a drug overdose here at the Troy Marriott Hotel. A woman with him who is unknown to the family. Now, if Ron Ilitch sounds familiar to you, or the picture looks familiar to you, that's because 4 years ago he was picked up in the city of Detroit by DPD. They had pulled over his Corvette and found cocaine on him. He was ultimately arraigned, charged in that case, but was allowed to plea down. Instead of possession of cocaine, he was allowed to plead down to the usage of cocaine, which spared him any sort of jail or prison time. Instead, he was given a year's probation and allowed to leave. In addition, back in 2006, Ilitch was also picked up here in Oakland County on an alleged domestic violence claim. That is something that ended up really not being adjudicated, but he was arrested for it. So right now, breaking right now, as we know, Troy police on the scene here at the Troy Marriott Hotel. Sources confirming for us that Ron Ilitch has been found dead of a drug overdose here at the hotel. We're live in Troy. I'm Mara McDonald, Local 4.
All right, Mara, obviously updates to come. Our other top story at this hour, parts of Lansing underwater, widespread flooding causing a huge mess, and the water is still rising.
This week's heavy rains and thaw have sent the Red Cedar and Grand Rivers in Lansing spilling over their banks.
And now the city of Lansing declaring a state of emergency. The flooding's also impacted Michigan State University as well, and Rod Maloney is live in East Lansing there on the MSU campus, and we've had a few evacuations forced by this, Rod.
Yeah, there have been some, Devin. We're going to be talking to a student who got evacuated here to the campus. Now, take a look at this. This is something that's never, ever been seen on the Michigan State campus before. It is a flood barrier. Instead of doing sandbags, they filled up these plastic trays with sand because they needed to make sure that the river didn't come up and get into their computer center, which is about maybe 100 yards away from the river. Homer Street, Lansing, right next to US 127. The water pump worked full-time to rid a basement of river water. Neighboring homes weren't so lucky. Neighbor Joe Longworth tells us it's not unusual to see flooding in the area, but
we'll never get even past the street or the stoplight over there. So yeah, yeah, this is by far the worst. So
just around the corner on Clippert Street, Odie's and its 600 different beers are a Friday night washout. Next door, the Admiral Station closed, pump deep in water. Behind it, the on-ramp to US 127 isn't passable either, and the nearby baseball diamond is unrecognizable. This apartment building entirely evacuated, and just this afternoon, with the help of a city pump, they were able to allow residents back in. MSU sophomore Brendan Smith called it an inconvenience, but it was necessary.
We got notice, I think it was Wednesday night. They let us know that we were going to evacuate on Thursday in the afternoon.
So where'd you stay?
I stayed with my friend here on campus.
The city of Lansing sending flooded out residents to this Red Cross shelter. So far, about half a dozen residents are here, but none of them wanted to talk on camera. Back on campus, forget the scenic Red Cedar River, it's the Red Cedar Lake tonight. All through the campus center, barricades redirect as students are making their way around the floodwaters. It's a bit of a conversation starter, but very few are particularly inconvenienced, and no classes have been canceled. So you can see that the water is fairly close to the computer center behind me here, but the water seemed to be receding, and in fact the university is saying they think that this is going to start going down by Saturday, and so they averted major disaster because, again, this is the computer center, and they've been putting students and teachers, faculty on notice that if they see any flooding anywhere, they're going to call it in right away because they want to deal with it right away. We have seen some of the flood cleanup companies running around campus because apparently some of the buildings did see some water. Back to you.
Yeah. All right, Rod. We'll continue to keep an eye on there as well as all the other areas that have been affected by all this massive flooding problem. But what about this weekend? What can we expect as we head now to Ben? And the weather, the rain has let up for now.
Yeah, we wish we could keep it that way through the weekend, but let's see. Let's get over to Ben. How you doing, Ben?
Pretty good, although a lot of folks got nervous this morning with that round of rain that moved through here. Thank goodness it was fairly light and not enough to cause any additional issues on top of what we had. Anywhere from about 1/100th up in Lapeer to about 1/3 of an inch across parts of our south zone this morning. That's gone. We start focusing on our next round, which is going to be this weekend. And even though this looks formidable, that's going to dive south of us before we get into Saturday night, which is going to be our next chance of rain. And as far as temperatures go, pretty mild, especially Sunday. We'll see that high of 53 early, but the rain comes late at night. We'll talk about how much we're expecting and what's on the other side in a few minutes. Kim?
A Detroit mother of 6 is sharing her terrifying story tonight. Ashley Petty was just out for a cup of coffee when she was attacked at gunpoint. Let's get out to Larry Spruill. He's live tonight. And Larry, she was at a gas station. By chance, did that gas station have cameras?
Well, Kimberly, that's the good news. She tells me that the attack was caught on these security cameras outside this gas station. She says everything happened inside that parking lot.
I didn't want him to kill me. So my kids was here sleeping.
Ashley Petty tells me that's all she could think about early Thursday morning as she was looking down the barrel of a gun or blurring her face for security reasons.
Helpless, powerless, like just in front of a gun, you know.
Petty tells me everything happened outside this Marathon gas station on Detroit's east side. She was here to get a cup of coffee before starting her nursing shift at a local nursing home. Ashley Petty tells me she walked out of the store when a man approached her with a gun. He threatened to shoot her and take her car.
I don't know if I was just like in shock or what, but I couldn't move. I was just holding up my keys like, you know, take it, don't shoot me.
The suspect did drive off.
I'm sad that it happened. I'm mad that it happened. You know, what gives somebody the right to take something that I worked for?
Petty is now beginning the process of getting a new car and her sense of security back. But first, she has this to say to her attacker.
I would ask him how would he feel if somebody did this to, you know, his mother or his sister or his niece.
And that mother tells me that the suspect took off in her 2010 GMC Acadia with all of her belongings inside. That's why she is now concerned for her children and afraid the suspect could come back to her home. If you know anything, call police. We're live on Detroit's east side tonight. Larry Spruill, Local 4.
Hey, Larry. Well, for the second time this week, a bullet is found inside a Metro Detroit high school. The 9mm round was discovered in the auditorium hallway of Berkeley High School, causing the school to be placed on lockdown. No guns were found, and the lockdown was lifted at 3 p.m., allowing students to leave on time. Police say there was never any danger to students. The incident comes just 2 days after a bullet was found inside Garden City High School.
Today, Florida's governor announced a sweeping plan to try to keep school children safe. In it, he's hoping to strike a balance between the rights of gun owners and what he calls an obvious need for public safety. Teachers and staff returned to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School amid heavy police presence. It's the first time since last week's mass shooting that killed 17 people. Meanwhile, Florida Governor Rick Scott, a member of the National Rifle Association, unveiled plans to keep students safe from gun violence.
I want to make it virtually impossible for anyone who is a danger to themselves or others to use a gun.
The proposal would block anyone with mental illness from having a gun, ban the sale of bump stocks, and raise the minimum age to buy any firearm to 21.
I'm proposing $500 million for school safety and mental health initiatives.
That includes dedicating at least one police officer or sheriff's deputy to every single public school in the state of Florida. The only armed security officer on duty at the Parkland High School last week, Scott Peterson, never went inside the high school or engaged the gunman during the attack, drawing criticism from President Trump.
Somebody was outside, they're trained, they didn't react properly under pressure, or they were cowards.
Support for Stoneman Douglas High continued Friday, with students from a neighboring high school marching in support of their peers.
We now stand for a moment of silence.
As well as on the mound, with Major League Baseball players wearing Marjorie Stoneman Douglas hats and welcoming students who survived the shooting.
In more news, a woman is in custody after causing a lockdown at the White House. The woman drove her car into a security barrier near the White House about 3:30 this afternoon. The driver was immediately apprehended by the Secret Service. Her name has not been released, but she is known to the Secret Service. No injuries were reported.
The boil water alert in Livonia is going to remain in effect until at least Sunday. It comes after a massive water main break near I-96 and Middle Belt. So residents in Livonia being urged to boil their water for at least a minute before using it. Great Lakes Water Authority has come out today. They've taken their first round of samples, but they now have to wait 24 hours after those results come in so that they can then take a second round. So at least Sunday right now, the boil order stays in effect. It's the debate that is now at the center of keeping our schools safe.
New here at 5, tackling the question of arming teachers.
Also, why Mayor Duggan's budget plan could signal a huge leap forward for the city of Detroit.
And a hint of good news in the nationwide flu epidemic, and here at home, coming up what doctors say about local flu cases this week and the other illnesses making people sick.
New at 6.
More trouble for Michigan State athletics. Tonight, Tom Izzo and university leaders responding to a report alleging illegal payouts to the mother of one of the Spartans' biggest stars.
Plus, a local school custodian learns how much he's loved by the kids he serves. New at 6, what a group of elementary students did for him after one of the low points of his life.
Now to good health, a hint of good news in the fight against the flu. CDC says the number of states reporting high flu traffic has dropped from 43 down to 39.
There are some signs that cases may be slightly down locally as well. Here's what's going around where you live. In Wayne County, flu cases remain high, but Beaumont Dr. Zafar Shamoun in Dearborn is seeing a decrease. Beaumont's in Taylor, Trenton, and Wayne are also treating colds, RSV, and stomach viruses. Dr. Marcus DeGraw at St. John reports kids with flu and upper respiratory infections. Over to Oakland County, flu is still going strong, but the CVS Minute Clinics are seeing a shift from influenza A to influenza B. Clarkston Medical Group is treating strep throat and hand, foot, and mouth disease. Beaumont Dr. Ashley Alexander in Rochester Hills reports post-flu sinus infections, pneumonia, and pink eye. West now to Washtenaw County, where the health department says flu is still circulating at high levels, but it appears cases peaked at the beginning of February. That said, U of M pediatricians are still seeing lots of kids with flu and other, quote, nasty respiratory viruses. Mono, strep throat, and stomach viruses also make the list. Checking out Monroe County, ProMedica Monroe Regional is seeing flu, especially those influenza B cases, plus strep throat and stomach viruses. Dr. Anthony Sanko's office reports RSV and colds. To Macomb County, where Dr. Richard Reedy at McLaurin Macomb says flu cases remain high among young children and older adults, but flu-like illnesses are very common too. Henry Ford Sterling Heights is seeing kids with upper respiratory infections and pink eye, and the CVS Minute Clinics report colds and ear infections. And finally, in Livingston County, Dr. Bashar Yaldo at the Ascension Medical Center in Howell says he's seeing some flu, lots of upper respiratory infections, and sinus infections. And the CDC says the flu vaccine should be more effective against those influenza B viruses, which tend to hit a little bit later in the flu season. From Dr. Gill.
From Dr. Gill. I like it. Play what on TV?
There you go.
Last weekend of February already.
Is it? Oh my goodness.
It is. Right. How about that?
You know what? Temperatures, though, have not been too bad in the last couple weeks. We've just had so much other stuff to worry about.
Yes.
To deal with.
Haven't been able
a lot of folks still bailing that other stuff right now. Yes.
That's true.
Fix it, Ben.
I'm going to try. I'm going to try. We've got dry conditions out there now, and we should see that most of the weekend. But again, the temperatures not too shabby for the end of February. Close to 50 degrees outside right now. Metro's at 49, and we don't see a whole lot of difference here in temperatures across the area. Mid-40s here in parts of our north zone, Lapeer and Port Huron. And this is warmer than yesterday, noticeably so, especially on the east side, where we're double digits warmer than the numbers we had at 5 p.m. on Thursday. Now, there was the shower activity this morning, also a little bit of fog. We got this in from Rochester Hills on Storm Pins. They love foggy mornings up there, apparently, but it wasn't all that good for drivers, especially this morning. That's gone. The rain's gone. The flooding issues still around, especially there in mid-Michigan. We saw that from Rod earlier, but here in our neck of the woods, we still have a few flood warnings out. The River Raisin down in Blissfield, especially Huron River in Hamburg Township, and a couple up there in Genesee County. So the river is starting to fall at Blissfield. We'll be down below flood stage this weekend. Not so much, though, out in Hamburg Township. Moderate flooding is happening there along the Huron River, and that is not going to sink back below flood stage until probably Wednesday of next week. So we've got a ways to go out there in Livingston County. Otherwise, our next chance of rain just around the corner. It's not going to be that area across Missouri. That'll dive south of us. But as we get into Saturday night, could get brushed by a few scattered showers in the late evening. Most of the rain we're expecting is going to be overnight. And the good news is it's going to be out of here by about 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. So there will be a lot of sunshine behind it, but there's also going to be a lot of wind. Could be some gusts 30 miles an hour plus as we finish the weekend on Sunday. High pressure settles in, and the early part of next week looks pretty good. We'll stay above average, get some sunshine in here, and have some rain-free periods as we start out next week. 32 tonight for the overnight low, mostly cloudy skies. That's above average for this time in February. And then high temperatures tomorrow still above normal as well. Metro zone is probably going to be one of the warmer spots. 43 in the city and downriver. And for an exception here, the south zone is actually not going to be any warmer. A little bit cooler, could be as cool as 39 here in Luna Pier and Monroe. As you get out into the west zone, we're looking at 40s generally, 41 in Manchester, 42 up in Flint. And our north zone having some 30s for highs too, especially in Sanilac County, and the more low 40s as you head towards M59. Going into the weekend, even though Sunday we've got a high here of 53 degrees, the important thing to note is that that is going to be coming very early in the morning. It's a 7 a.m. number, and then we'll see those fall as we get later into the day. But otherwise, the rest of that forecast is going to bring temperatures pretty much in line with normal conditions as we get into the upcoming weekend. We'll see those 50s return with sunshine by Tuesday and Wednesday. So not too bad next week. Not too bad this weekend, but we do have that rain coming Saturday night.
And then we're into a whole new month.
That's right.
Yeah. All right.
Coming up, it's a pretty bold claim, but we do have a picture to prove it.
New tonight, see what might be Michigan's worst pothole.
Pretty stunning. If you haven't seen the picture, we'll show you in a minute. But first, brand new details emerge in court. What we're learning now about a deadly shooting inside an elevator at the Greektown Casino.
4 suspects face murder charges in the shooting at Greektown Hotel. The 4 men who allegedly shot a man in an elevator at the hotel were in court today for a preliminary hearing. The shooting happened December 4th, about 4 a.m. Today, the judge saw security video from the incident while a security director from the hotel testified. The hearing will resume Tuesday.
Just a few days left in the 2018 Winter Olympic Games, but the time we've spent in Korea has perhaps whetted your appetite for more. It sure did mine, like this lunch we had in Seoul on a dish that kind of crisscrosses the Korean and American cultures. We are sitting down to lunch now in Seoul, and we have arrived at this beautiful bowl of stew. This is called Budae Jjigae. In fact, that's what this restaurant specializes in. Budae Jjigae means army stew, and this originated back when the U.S. Army left after the Korean War. The Koreans, with that great Korean ingenuity, decided to take a lot of the leftover army food and turn it into this soup. So it's things like, well, this is sort of like an American hot dog. That's in here, as are, if you look really closely, a lot of baked beans. So classic army food that they've then combined with things like Korean noodles and these great little sort of Korean-style pastas, which are known as rice cakes. So it's bundled together in this really spicy broth, and it is delicious. It's also known as Johnson stew because after President Lyndon Johnson visited Korea back in the 60s, he loved this dish. So it's not only known as Army stew, but Johnson stew as well. Good stuff.
And you also cook it at your table.
You do a lot of cooking at your own table in certain Korean restaurants, but a lot of the restaurants that specialize in soup or stew, you can just kind of ask for more noodles, and they'll just bring you kind of a brick of ramen noodle style noodles, and you just plop them into the pot that's boiling at your table.
Fantastic.
I heartily endorse it.
Looks like you really enjoyed it.
Back with more in just a minute.
New at 5:30.
A living legend living right here in Farmington Hills.
I'll never do anything as exciting as this again in the rest of my life.
And he is about to receive an incredible honor.
Arming specially trained teachers with guns? That's all they're talking about at schools all over the metro area with teachers and students.
It makes me feel almost, maybe not hopeless, but definitely a sense of disappointment.
We dive into it.
Arming teachers. It's a controversial proposal gaining momentum in Washington, but what do teachers think about carrying guns in the classroom? Just today, President Trump said he believes things would have gone much differently in Parkland, Florida, had there been an armed teacher on campus.
But the president's proposal is being met with some very strong criticism, even from members of his own party. Paula Tutman has been talking with local teachers and school leaders. And where do they stand on the debate, Paula?
Well, you know what? This, honestly, no pun intended, but this really is creating a firestorm. And so today, Representative Sherry Gay Dagnogo is actually taking issue with a comment that supposedly Detroit Police Chief James Craig said, where he said he believes that Detroit teachers should be armed. I spoke to the vice president of the Detroit Federation of Teachers. That's the union. He said, absolutely not. This is absolutely the wrong way to go. The union will not support it. I've spoken to many superintendents all across the metro area, and it's really difficult to find many who are in support of this. Novi High School is mammoth, a sprawling 500,000 square feet, and there is mounting concern over school shootings and the fact that they can happen anywhere.
You can't not think about it because it's such a present danger in our lives.
But there's an even bigger concern that the idea of arming teachers might be considered a viable fix to mass shootings at schools.
Just in talking to all the teachers in this building, and this is all anybody's talking about the past couple days, and in talking to the teachers that I'm connected with on social media, I haven't run into a single teacher yet who thinks this is a good idea. And I think that speaks volume.
Hattie's husband is a police officer. She has guns in her home. She will not have them in her classroom.
I think that there's no good can come of having teachers armed in a building. I think our jobs are to work with students, to care about students, to get to know our students as people. And the second we become an armed guard, that changes that relationship in a way that you can't fix.
Superintendent Dr. Steve Matthews says the idea won't even be brought up for discussion.
Novi police come in and they see multiple people with guns. They don't know all of our teachers. Who do they think is a friend? Who do they think is a foe? It just does not make sense. It's an easy answer, but it's a wrong answer.
I feel like if I were to talk to a teacher, knowing that they have a gun with them, like feet away or inches away, it's just terrifying, and I just would not be learning at the level I do right now.
That the risks of things going wrong outweigh the possibility that things could go right, quote unquote. I think the idea that a teacher is gonna, conduct themselves in some heroic fashion and take out the bad guy, Wayne LaPierre, you need a good guy with a gun to take out a bad guy with a gun. In my mind, that's just sort of a fantasy.
Is really segueing away from the actual issue. Which to me is the fact that people are able to get these weapons where they can conduct mass murder in the first place.
Yeah, so the majority of the people I talked about, listen, you've got to figure out mental health issues, but I think really the overwhelming opinion from people who are inside these schools was that the people who are suggesting that teachers, even well-trained teachers, carry guns are people who really don't understand how the inner workings of a school really work. Guys?
All right, the debate far from solved. Thank you, Paula.
All right, let's talk weather here. We got a little peek at East Lansing. In Lansing, boy, they are dealing with some serious flooding issues, but down here, not so much.
Yeah, it's worse there. We still have issues here, but it is the weekend, and a lot of us need a break. It is
in more ways than one, right?
That's true. And some folks are out on the ice at Campus Martius enjoying the, sort of winter weather. The temperatures out there very mild. It is close to 50 degrees right now in Detroit. Not too far behind for the rest of us. Mid-40s generally once you get into our north zone. Lapeer's at 45 and Monroe is checking in at 48. Mild temperatures will continue for the weekend, but the weather story is this. The rain comes back as we get into Saturday and Sunday, and we'll talk timing on this coming up. Bright and mild for early next week, and by the end of it, oh, snow. We'll be back to the flakes as we are back to March, even though it's still winter. We'll check that out for you in just a few minutes. Karen and Jason.
That's right. I guess it is technically February, isn't it?
It is
Still,
still.
you almost forgot. Today, Mayor Mike Duggan made a move he hopes will put Detroit's bankruptcy completely in the rearview mirror.
And he is doing it with his budget plan. Jermont Terry live tonight. And Jermont, what most folks don't know is that the state still does control Detroit's purse strings.
Karen, yes, it's only been 5 years since the city filed for bankruptcy, and sure, we've seen many improvements since then. And as you mentioned, many people may not realize that the state still has oversight on how the city spends its money. But if the mayor's budget gets the green light, that could all change. Mayor Mike Duggan presented to the Detroit City Council a budget that is just over $2 billion. The mayor's proposed budget allows the city to stay out of the red and remain in the positive for the third consecutive year. And if approved, Duggan believes this will eliminate any state review. Currently, a review committee approves Detroit's spending as a stipulation with the city's bankruptcy. Duggan's proposed budget adds increases to many departments. Some include $10 million increase to DPW to deal with road funding like potholes, $8 million increase to DPD to hire approximately 141 new full-time positions and expand ceasefire, and $100 million for blight remediation and capital projects.
We're proposing to double the rate of commercial demolition. And this is probably the program that is running most efficiently in the city of Detroit. It's remarkable how well they're doing.
The mayor believes the $100 million for blight, which is double the amount allocated for the last fiscal year, is a necessity. Duggan adds this is a guaranteed way every neighborhood in the city gets transformed.
We believe by the end of 2019, we can get rid of every unsalvageable vacant commercial building on a main street in the city of Detroit.
Now, when all the checks are written and everything is said and done, Duggan's proposed budget leaves the city with a 5% reserve, which is just over $62 million, and that's well over the $54 million required under the bankruptcy requirements. Reporting live in downtown tonight, Jermont Terry. Jason, back to you.
All right, Jermont, thanks. The First Latin American Baptist Church in Southwest Detroit has been demolished. The building stood on Fort Street for more than 100 years. The demolition is part of a plan to make way for the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Some members of the church were there to watch it being torn down today and even took some bricks home as souvenirs. The congregation's new home is at Scotton Avenue and Wolf Street, just a little more than a mile away.
The clock is ticking down tonight on the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, the U.S. has just 48 hours and 6 events left to make it count. Gina Kim is in Pyeongchang with a look at what's on the line.
Look what I got for you today. This is official gear, not swag because I don't get to keep it, but official gear from the U.S. men's curling team, which competes in the gold medal competition just a few hours from now. We didn't win any medals in our 3 events yesterday, but today we are guaranteed one here. The final figure skating competition of the Winter Olympics belonged to 2 Russian teenagers. 15-year-old Alina Zagitova twirled her way to gold, scoring just 1 point more than 18-year-old Yevgenia Medvedeva, who took silver. It's the first gold medal for the Olympic athletes from Russia at these games. No medals this time for the 3 American women, but they still take home a bronze they won in the team event.
I was one of the people who saved the team, and I did my triple axel, and I made history, and it's been, after that program, I was ready to go home.
A U.S. medal is guaranteed today in curling, where for the first time, American men compete in a gold medal match against Sweden. 3 Americans will look to continue our winning streak in snowboarding tonight in men's big air. And cross-country gold medalist Jessie Diggins has been selected as the U.S. flag bearer for the closing ceremony after getting the most votes by her fellow athletes. So we were talking to the U.S. men's curling team about how they're handling all the pressure going into today's big stakes match. And they were like, you know, all week long, every time we played, we faced elimination. So today, they're prepared for the heat.
In Pyeongchang, Gina Kim, Local 4.
Olympic gold medalist Allison Schmidt returned home to Canton for a very special event.
I'm honored to present my sister, Allison Schmidt, as the 2018 Canton High School Hall of Fame inductee.
Schmidt was inducted into the Canton Athletics Hall of Fame. Inductees are chosen for their significant contributions to athletics at Canton High. Schmidt, a freestyle swimmer, went on to compete in 3 Summer Olympics, winning 4 gold, 2 silver, and 2 bronze medals. Allison is also very outspoken about her struggles post-Olympics. She's not alone. She recently sat down with another Olympic gold medalist, Meryl Davis, to talk about the emotional roller coaster after competing.
Even though many of us, many female athletes, are empowered through our experience in sport, by only talking about the good side of things, I think we're not doing justice to future generations who aren't fully understanding what it means to overcome and push through the challenges.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I hope that someone watching this realizes that a bad day doesn't mean you have a bad life. A bad week doesn't mean you have a bad life.
You can catch this very candid conversation with Allison and Meryl tonight at 11. Much more ahead here at 5:30. Tim.
This is Tim Pamplin. Do you have dinner plans? Well, maybe you could join these people lining up around the block to get inside a church drive-through. A church drive-through, you say? Yes, it's what's going on in the church kitchen that has all these people amped up. I'll introduce you to the Cod Squad. Coming up.
A man quietly living here in Farmington Hills is actually a big-time celebrity in Europe. In fact, he has his own trading cards.
They consider us as celebrities.
And he is about to embark on an incredible journey. We'll tell you all about it.
After the win. New at 6.
There are some not so subtle hints about how residents feel about saving the berms here in this Royal Oak neighborhood. What's wrong with them? Nothing. The city, though, considering getting rid of them to help traffic flow. We'll talk to both sides to see where they stand.
Plus, the surprisingly strong connection between the health of your gums and the health of your heart.
If you're ever wondering what a hero looks like, well, look no further than this man right here.
That's right. At 93 years old, Edward Good is getting a very special honor for what he did during World War II. Our Sean Lay shows us how he's preparing for the trip of a lifetime.
A very modest man living here at this home in Farmington Hills is actually a major celebrity in Europe because of what he and his fellow veterans did there during World War II. He's about to embark on a journey back to Europe to walk those battlefields all over again. At 93, Edward Good is feeling good and looking good.
Just keep telling me that regardless. Yeah.
More than 70 years ago, during World War II, due to a minor medical condition, the military gave Good the option to go home or go big. He chose big, eventually hooking up with the famed 17th Airborne Division.
I'll never do anything as exciting as this again in the rest of my life.
Exciting and deadly. Good jumped with 17,000 other paratroopers into Germany on one day for what's known as Operation Varsity, a key operation in bringing Allied troops into Germany and ending the war.
We blocked all the roads coming down to the river from Germany to allow the Army to get across unimpeded.
In fact, the enemy knew they were coming and warned that they would send up so many anti-aircraft shots that the paratroopers could walk down to the battle.
We were under fire. I was being shot at, bullets going over our heads. But that was my combat experience.
Good says he was lucky to survive. Now he's being honored. Next month, Good will return to Germany to visit the area where he jumped into battle. And then he'll go to Belgium to visit the site of the Battle of the Bulge that liberated Belgium and where the 17th Airborne remains such celebrities. Good has his own trading cards to save his hands from so many autograph requests. Ed Good remains humble, knowing he's representing so many fellow soldiers who jumped and who died.
Very happy that I was there and glad that I took part.
And at the end of his flight to Europe, Ed Good plans on landing this time, not jumping out again.
No, I certainly hope not, no.
Such an honor to share Mr. Good's story. He'll come back from his trip in Europe at the end of March. We've asked his family to share with us some photos and videos of his trip so we can share them with you as well. In Farmington Hills, Sean Lay, Local 4.
Great stuff, Sean. I mean, the stories those guys have, the greatest generation.
I love the baseball cards, too.
Yes.
That's really cool.
That is.
Thank you. Well, we have all been witnesses of some giant potholes this year, but the Grand Blanc Township Police Department may be winning the massive pothole scavenger hunt.
Check this baby out. Grand Blanc Police shared the picture on the Facebook page showing Officer David Clark standing inside that enormous pothole on McWayne Road just south of Baldwin. He stood in the hole for perspective. By the way, he's 6'5".
Yikes.
Police shut down the road for temporary repairs, but has finally reopened